Hello and welcome to the depths of winter for another dyno shootout. Today it is this car, which is a Ford S-Max. I should probably point that out. It's a 2006 Ford S-Max 2.5T titanium. Titanium is the trim level because they didn't do gear when it came to the S-Max. So this is the top of the range as far as S-Maxes go. It's also early as far as S-Maxes go. This is a June 2006 built car, one of the very first ones, so early that it doesn't have traction control, which makes today easier. It's one less warning light to come on. Now, this particular S-Max, you may recognise it, is our Ford S-Max, my family's. This is the family bus. And you're wondering, why am I putting it on the rolling road? Why would you bother? Well, for two reasons. The first reason is, I think this might be the most powerful car we own. That is kind of sad, isn't it? It's a people carrier. But I think it might be the most powerful car we own. Yes, I do have a TVR Chimera, but as any fool who know TVR Chimeras will know, the power figures are not quite what they say in the book. So, yeah, this is probably the most powerful car I own. It's certainly not the C6, which fell over on dyno the other day. It's a sad time, but we're going to be moving this car on. And that is sad. We've had this car 10 years. Lots of memories in this car. This car has been up and down the Mulsanne Straight. It's been around Nürburgring. Yes, genuinely, it went round the Nürburgring, 5 up, with a boot full of holiday stuff. We've been on holidays around Europe in it. We've been all over France. Had the thing 10 years. I mean, there's a lot of memories that get built in 10 years. When the kids first went in this car, they were tiny. And now they're taller than me, which is still not big, but big enough. It's bigger than they were when they first went in it. But basically, it's time to move on. It's time to move it on. Now, for those who don't know about a Ford S-Max 2.5T, I'll give you a quick rundown of what they are. No, I won't. I'll move the camera. Now, for those who don't know much about a Ford S-Max 2.5T titanium, I'll educate you. It looks like a Ford S-Max. Yes. This is high-level stuff, isn't it? Looks like a Ford S-Max. Ford S-Max was a, large people carrier produced by Ford on the Mark IV Mondeo platform. And it is it's the same as a Galaxy. If you look at a Galaxy from the same year, Ford had the Galaxy as a full-on people carrier. And this, they actually called this they called it the SAV, S-A-V, Sports Activity Vehicle, which is a load of old shite. Basically, it's a people carrier with a slightly lower roof and a slightly smaller back end and slightly firmer suspension. For its job as being a people carrier, it's worse. But it's not. This is actually a really good car. This is, in my mind, one of the best cars Ford made. Basically, the premise of this car was for it to have the space of a people carrier, the practicality of a people carrier, but with none of the drawbacks as far as driving it goes. It drives like an estate car. A good estate car as well, because Ford, at that time, Ford were making good handling cars. It's genuinely really good. I mean, I used to own a Citroen C4 VTS Coupe 180, and at the time we had this, and I have to be honest, this handles better. The C4 was from Citroen's era where they were not, PSA's era of kind of losing their way a little bit as far as chassis dynamics went, but this thing's on a different planet. It handles so much better than it has any right to. It rides quite well. It's firm, but it rides quite well for what it is. And the engine is the main reason why I've stuck it on the dyno, because most Ford S-Maxes will have a diesel, either a 1.8 or a 2 litre or even a 2.2. The latter two of which are actually Peugeot engines. There are a few 2 litre petrols out there, which is the Geratech. I think that's based on a Mazda engine. There was actually an EcoBoost, which came later down the line, but I don't know anything about those. And then there was this one, the 2.5T. The 2.5T uses the 2.5 litre, 5-cylinder, 20-valve turbo engine from the Ford Focus ST. In this, an unassuming box. And you might think to yourself, a bit of a hot hatch killer that, isn't it? 220 horsepower. But it weighs as much as the moon, so it's not that fast. It's all right. It goes quicker than you'd expect a people carrier to go. It's got some useful mid-range shove, but it is not a hot hatch killer. It is not a sprinter. I actually think this engine is tuned more for refinement and smoothness. Ford used to put V6 engines in the Galaxy, the early Galaxy, which was basically the Volkswagen VR6 engine, I think, and that was their kind of smooth, a lolloping cruiser version. And they never used the V6 version in the S-Max or in the Galaxy, or even in the Mondeo Mark IV. The lolloping smooth version was the 5-cylinder, and very smooth it is. It's a very, very smooth engine. You might think 5-cylinder, odd number of cylinders, that's going to be lumpy and all over the place. No, it's not. It's smoother than, well, it's nearly as smooth as a 6-cylinder. I mean, I'd say it's as smooth as a V6, and it's not quite as smooth as a straight 6, but not far off. But we are very fond of it. We've had it a long time. It's been a great car. It's a rare colour as well. Colorado red, which is just red. And you'd think, well, that's a basic colour, isn't it? On one of these, this is rare. This is a really rare car. 18-inch wheels, mud flaps, semi-leather interior. I mean, I'm doing a sales job on this car, aren't I? Because we are selling it. I'm not going to sell it. My father-in-law is a much better car salesman than I am, and he much prefers doing that sort of thing. He enjoys it. I don't know why. So he can do it. He's offered to do it. So if you want to buy this car, speak to him. It'll be quite cheap. People who've been watching these videos a while might remember me saying that this has been on here before. Piss off! People who've watched these videos before might remember me saying this has been on here before. It has been on here before. Quite a long time ago, but it has been on here before. But the difference is, back then, it hadn't had some of the parts it's had now. It used to have an inlet manifold leak. That's gone, because I've changed the gaskets. The fuel pressure sensor was dicky. That's gone. It's had a new boost control solenoid. That's been replaced. It's brand new down there. What else did it have? A MAF. It's had a new MAF. That was, well, I say new. It was a few years ago now, but it was before it was last dynoed. So I don't remember what it made last time, if I'm honest. I think it wasn't the full 220, but these Volvo 5-cylinders normally are within about 5-10 horsepower with the book figure. They're not amazing for hitting the book figures, but they're not normally a million miles off. Can't remember where this was, so I'm intrigued to see today what happens. So it's that time. What do you think it's going to do? This is a turbocharged petrol car. There is more variation there. You start throwing turbos in and forced induction, you can start getting a little bit more variation when it comes down to things like mileage and condition. This has done 140,000 miles. I think it was on 90 when we got it, so 140,000 miles. Mechanical problems, as far as I know, none. It runs quite sweetly. It's quite happy. In fact, the only issue this has is the exhaust manifold gasket has a tiny, tiny leak, and when you first start the car cold, it squeaks, which actually is quite a common thing, apparently. I found on Volvo forums. But as far as that, mechanically, that engine's good to go. The issues with the car, like the smashed window, the crack in the windscreen and stuff, that's other stuff, that's fine. It's not going to affect the dyno today. 220 horsepower is the book figure. And the torque is an interesting one, because I don't know what it is. 220 horsepower at 5,000 revs is the book figure. The torque is an interesting one, because the torque peak figure is, the book figure is 236 pound-feet. But the revs at which it's produced is the only car I've ever had where it doesn't give you a peak RPM number, it's a range. Between 1,500, which is very low, gives you the kind of, as I say, the low-legged, lusty kind of gutsy nature of the engine. Between 1,500 and about 4,000 RPM, I think it is. I'll put the details on the screen. But basically, those are the book figures. So if it can get kind of near that, it's 140,000 miles on it. Yeah, some cars that have done high mileage is just a number. They still do what they're supposed to do. These Volvo engines I've not found. Right, she's all set up. Yay, we got a people carrier on a dyno. But a people carrier that sounds like... Is there anything that sounds better than a 5-cylinder engine? I know everyone goes on about V8s and things, but 5 cylinders sound so good. Tell you what, it felt smooth. It did feel smooth. Let's have a look. Not bad, not bad. 210. First run, that's not bad. Although it's losing it here, look, it's squirreling. I wonder if that's probably just down to my... Look how good it is there! Wow! I'm pretty sure last time I did this on here, I think it made about 205, and this was worse, but look at that, up to... No wonder it feels up to 5,000. Bloody hell. No wonder it feels like it pulls so well. It's just so effortless to drive. And yeah, look at that torque curve. So 1,500, yeah, it is high. 230 pound-foot, is that? Look at that. Yeah, it is that broad. It's actually made more torque. They're supposed to be 236, but you do find that. I've noticed with forced induction petrol cars, the power can go down a little bit over time, but the torque tends to increase. I think that's because they sort of free up over time, you know. Everything sort of becomes, what's the way of putting it? There's less resistance, everything's a little bit looser. But that's actually quite good. I wasn't sure what the power was going to be. I was concerned it wasn't going to be in the 200s, but I'm happy with that, 210. Because although it is 220 in the book, it's Ford 220, and Ford can be a little bit with the old numbers. No, that's pretty good, but let's give it another go, see if it wakes up a bit more and get a bit more out of it. But 210 at 5,100. I think the original book figure, that's probably just supposed to kind of flatline there. The fact it's dying off again, it's just down to, I mean, it's a 140,000 mile engine, or more importantly, 140,000 mile turbo. I expect maybe with a fresh turbo that might suddenly wake up again, but it's not going to bother whoever buys it, because I'm sure they're going to stick a Hufen great turbo on it anyway and remap it to death until it blows up. But that's what will probably happen to these engines. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Right, run 3. I'm always trying to think of new angles to show these runs from, so how about this one? I'm going to leave the bonnet open, which doesn't make any difference to power. You know, it just doesn't. I'm leaving it open for the noise. So let's see if we can hear the 5-cylinder a bit more. Yeah, run 3. I hope it beats 210. That's all I'm interested in. I've waited a bit of time. It's cooled down. I just want to beat 210, even if it's 211. That'll be its best ever result. So let's find out. Right, let's see how she got on. 210 again. 243. Okay, so it is 210, isn't it? 210 again. Graph pretty much the same as the first one. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take that. So it is basically 210. Slightly up on torque. Power losses are quite high on this car, but it has got fat rims. So it's got big wide, stick it at 235 or 245 section tyres on this. They're big, which makes it ridiculous that it eats them so quickly, but yeah. So yeah, and a 6-speed box, big heavy drive shafts, big heavy CV joints, big heavy car pushing into the dyno, you know, and as well as being ratcheted down. So yeah, it does stand to reason it would have slightly more power losses than most front wheel drive cars. They would normally be in the kind of 15, 18 region. But yeah, I have seen them at 25 for something this big and heavy, and of course it's not a percentage thing, but there is an element of it that is a percentage thing, as in the more it produces on the way up, the more it makes on the way down, but it's not based on that, it's just based on the outright number. So 193 at the wheels. You have to ignore this one. I know it says 218, which is nearly book, but well, in fact, in terms of HP, that is actually book, but in terms of PS or DIN here, yeah, it's basically 10 off book figure with 140,000 miles on it. but that's a pretty good thing. I think it probably would do it, you know. I don't know why it's dying off here. It's got a genuine MAF, it's got genuine boost control solenoid. There's a lot of things that haven't been changed, you know. There's a lot of parts of the car that are original, but yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean, to be honest, you don't rev it above 5 on the road anyway. It's just not that sort of car. All the usefulness is here. So no, that's good. That's good. Pleased with that. Well done. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean, it would have been nice to have the book figure, but I know from experience that, well, there are two things here fighting against me. First off, it's a 140,000 mile turbocharged petrol car, and the health and sort of just the newness, if you like, the freshness of certain components in cars like this, like an intercooler that's not got anything in it, you know, it's completely clean, and a brand new turbo, and that, yeah, probably would do the 220, but, you know, it does make a difference on naturally aspirated, more simple engines that don't have variable valve timing like this one does. You're more likely to get the book figure and or better. I mean, look at my Peugeot 106. So yeah, all things considered, I'm quite happy with that. The other factor in it is that Ford power figures can be a little bit... I mean, not all the time. Look at that Ford Fiesta Z-Tech S that was on here the other day. Did very well. We've got a Focus ST 170 queued up to come in, although the last one I put on here should have really been called a ST 153. But yeah, we've got a Focus ST lined up, and there will no doubt be more Fords to come on here. I was hoping that this one would be nearer like the book figures and perhaps not quite as fanciful because it's a Volvo engine. But yeah, I mean, whatever. 210 horsepower in a big bus like this. It's a decent drive. It pulls well. It drives happily. It runs a treat. So yeah, overall, happy with that. So yeah, 210 for the old bus. Well done. Might do a test drive video on this one maybe. Would be nice just to sort of sign it off officially. 10 years is a long time. It has grown up with us, but cars do not last forever. Unless you make them last forever. Financially, it's ruinous. That will not be the case with this one. It is a tool, not a toy. But hopefully for someone else, this could be a toy. If you want a very early, rare, very rare colour. In fact, this car is probably rarer than my C6. Genuinely. In this spec and colour and everything, I'd be amazed if there's more than 10 of these in the country. Yeah, a 2.5T titanium, 2006. It's 2006, so it's not the ludicrous tax either. That's the good thing, because it's early enough. It doesn't fall under the stupid tax rules that the C6 falls under. So this isn't £700 a year or whatever. It's about 300 and something. Yeah, if you're interested, get in touch. But I'm not advertising it. If you are interested, I shall send you the way to go. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. I think we're going back to 106s next. Back to business as normal. I think there's another 106 coming in.